Okay, well, no pressure. I can't say it was that great, but I do think that coming in, I really enjoyed it last year. I told Dr. Salser, it just feels like this class alone, like what a cool thing to be able to take, be able to attend. Um, they certainly didn't have it when I was in college. We were left to our own devices. Um, yeah. But so I'm Kayla Blessman, HR director for NT Logistics. Um, so I began my career in human resources. I can't say when I graduated college, I was like, please pick me. That's exactly what I'm going to do. But we can get into that. So, 14 years spanning, I've usually supported senior leadership in the C-suite in the organizations I've been in. Um, I grew up in DFW. I went to Texas A&M, a few Aggies maybe. But y'all feel free, raise your hands, ask questions during this. Certainly, this is not like a formal forum. But how do you show up? Making every interaction count. You guys, internships are landing earlier, jobs are landing earlier. It's certainly the market has shifted and continued to shift of what we've seen between post-graduation offers to, you know, the economy of where it is and how the ebbs and flows, certainly since post-COVID. So we'll get into a little bit of it. So first and foremost, Salser did not pay me to put this in here, but when I'm exploring through everything that UNT has to offer, um, I mean, the resources are seriously endless. And it's so impressive because I don't know if that just means I've been out of college for a little too long or um, I just know UNT is doing it really well. And if you guys haven't taken the opportunity to attend these, I saw, what was it, an etiquette dinner, just of like how you show up at a more formal dinner, to like the shopping events, to even just being able to stop by and get some mock interview or coaching. Um, it's pretty amazing. And if you're not taking advantage of it, I certainly encourage you to, because all of this is certainly going to help you not only get a good frame of mind going into a job or a role, um, get comfortable with interviews. And the secret there is literally you'll never get comfortable with them. You could be interviewing, you get in your groove, you go to a job for, let's say, 2, 3 years, and you're back on the market and you're looking for another job, and you get into the swing of interviewing, and every single time it's like you're doing it for the first time. It takes the practice. And so all of this is certainly, I mean, outside of just like networking, like I saw a few hands of who went to the career fair. Um, Even if you already have a job, offer your internship, you know exactly what's happening next. Going to those to network, to meet people there, meet and greet, to connect with them on LinkedIn or hear a little bit more about their career path. Um, I know it can be a pain. It's one more thing. You already have class, you have a stacked schedule, but it it really does make a difference. Okay, the interview. One, y'all's resumes. I don't think anyone in this room should have, if you have a 3-page resume, it's too long. Like no one's going to see it. No one's going to look through all of the bullets. No one's going to really take in all of the information that you have. Consolidating it with the viewpoint of someone's probably going to be looking at it for, unfortunately, 10, 30 seconds, maybe a minute or two as they review it, but they're really glancing at it. You have to think on LinkedIn, when you're going to apply, handshake, whatever avenue it is, there is like the amount of inner resumes that someone is getting and combing through, it's hundreds. And it takes a really long time to do that, but you're looking for some key things. So you're going through it and you're looking for key points. Um, any point to be able to quantify achievements or takeaways, learnings, um, that certainly is a call out there. But okay, LinkedIn, being updated and active on LinkedIn. It does not mean you have a post of like what I did this week, in this organization. It doesn't have to be that, but making connections on LinkedIn for those in your field that are fellow students, um, following them and having, some sort of, it is a place to connect and network. But it will also have some great events of like how you can get out there outside of, campus, maybe just in the DFW market of some great networking events. But then jobs too. There's so many job sources, but most organizations right now, they may have jobs posted in multiple places. LinkedIn is always going to be a central source of where recruiters are going to go source for talent, where they are looking. Like let's say they didn't even get your interview, I mean your resume from LinkedIn, they're probably gonna go look you up on LinkedIn. So having it just updated, having it look, just a little bit more polished. Everyone, I mean, mine could look a little bit more polished. I mean, everyone has a little bit of opportunity there. Um, okay, let's see. Being proactive. Y'all wouldn't believe how many people, and I've told a few, our NT logistics interns are here, and I've told Araceli and Andrew all summer long, I said, guys, you wouldn't believe how many people just like stroll in for an interview a minute before, 5 minutes after, a wrinkled shirt, so casual, not doing any homework. Don't show up. If you're gonna show up well. And really take it for, even if you don't land that job, like it's such good practice, or you made a great impression to network. And going back to networks, you might see them again in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, your paths might cross. Um, your P's and Q's, right? Like showing up a little early, maybe iron that shirt, just look polished, look nice. Um, prepare yourself, right? Go through it. I'm not saying like go through all the details of every question that could possibly be asked for you. No one expects that. But do a little bit of background on the company, even before screening calls. If you know you have a screening call with a recruiter for a company, then doing a little background around what their company is, especially if you applied to that job. I'll also tell you there's so many people that I talk to, like, hey, saw you apply to our job, would love to talk to you further. And I get on the phone with them, they're like, sorry, what company is this again? And it's like you applied, like you reached out to us, right? So just do a little homework. Make sure you're aware, like, where's that just where are they located? How big is the company? What do they do? What do they specialize in? And I mean, it takes no more than 5 minutes. It could take more, but just bare bones, right? We're all different. We're all different levels, right? Freshman to senior. Sounds
Mostly senior.
mostly senior. Who has jobs lined up for post-graduation in May? A few. Nice. But a few not, which is fine, right? Like the internship world is certainly a competitive one. And everyone getting, that experience, it's a wonderful thing. But it doesn't always mean that, with an organization that, you might be securing a role with them. Going through and making sure that you have networks and you guys have stayed connected because their network opens up your network, right? Like it all plays in there. Okay. We did a little bit of this already. Traditional P's and Q's. I touched on this, but I'm super serious. Show up a little early, show up prepared, have your resume printed. That's a good first step. They probably will already have it, but if they don't, you've already have it prepared for them. Behavioral interviewing. This throws everyone off, right? If you've gone through interview processes like most of you probably have, 100% of you in this room, you've gone through an interview and the interview questions are, tell me about a time X, Y, and Z. You don't have to have the perfect answer. Behavioral interview is just to say, hey, we'd love to get to know a little bit more real life experience. We see your resume and see everything that you have on that resume, but tell us a little bit about a time that even you had maybe a challenge or a conflict with a coworker, or you didn't like the direction that you were given and you didn't think it was the best idea, but you still had to do it anyways, as long as it's, legal, right? But, just saying, like, tell me a little bit about that thought process. We look, these are like telling signs to say, like, how adaptable are you? Are, your critical thinking skills? How are you looking at a big picture? Are you going to ask probing questions to really understand, or are you just going to take the direction at face value and say, I didn't really understand it or get it, but I did what I was told? Um, all of these show up different. So it really doesn't have to be this like grand example. I know, and I'm guilty of this too, right? Before you go to an interview, you're thinking through and you're like, what's the best thing that I can present to really showcase what I've done in my career or what I'm looking to do? And sometimes it's the simplest scenarios that are your daily interactions that you can speak to. In your interview, come with questions too. Someone's always going to punt it back to you, say, hey, what questions do you have for me? And the most common question I think I get a lot of times too is, well, tell me about the process. Guys, y'all have a really good opportunity just to say, well, tell me like what you like most about the organization. Tell me how you landed here and what do you enjoy most about your role and what do you find the most challenging? Like it can just be conversational. It doesn't have to be this like transactional, super tactical question there. Um, you have that chance to get to know that person and get to know what about maybe their career too, right? Um, make a better impression because there might be things that come up through that conversation that are great takeaways or just lead into more conversation of maybe, oh, I've experienced that too, you know, and X, Y, and Z, right? It allows you just to not be so surface level in there. So just think through. You can have the same three questions for organization of like, when I go to an interview, when they ask me, I ask these three questions. And I ask everyone those three questions because I'd love to know everyone's perspective on that. That's okay too. But a lot of people come, I mean, I won't lie to y'all. I feel like it's like 60, 70% that I interview will be like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, well, I'm happy to tell you what's next, but you also had an opportunity just to have more conversation, a little bit more in depth. Um, and so take advantage of that. Hungry, humble, smart. You don't have to write all this down. Don't take, like it's a lot of words, but um, really when you're interviewing, like when you're coming out of college, you might, you have an internship experience. You may not be super in depth in your career. No one's expecting you to be, but how do you display the competencies and the characteristics of like, hey, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to get in, ask questions, be super hungry in that perspective. Hungry, self-motivated, you know, goes the extra mile. It's all those that you've heard like traditionally, like, oh, I go above and beyond. It's, well, how? You're showing how you ask questions in the interview. That shows that you're super hungry. I'm not leaving with the impression that you're super hungry and taking initiative to, better understand or optimize the moment. Um, if it if you don't really have much feedback to have to conversate on, humble, humility goes a long way, right? No one's also expecting you or even later in your career to be the sole person who's like achieving and being, winning the trophies and the awards and I did this, you know. No, I did it with the team and this was my contribution and this is what we learned. A lot of times in our capstone, right? Even that when you're presenting with, I know a few of you probably are on the capstone, right? Yeah. When you're presenting with your team, right? It's a team effort. You're going to be on a team in most instances of whatever job you take, showing a level of humility that you're not just out for yourself. You don't have to take all the credit, what are your learnings? Being able to admit that, hey, I made this mistake, or this was the opportunity that I had here, and I had a great learning from it. that itself, right? There's a level of professional maturity that comes across, and it's like, oh, wow, this person really understands the bigger picture or is, oh, taking ownership and accountability. And then smart. Guys, this is not about IQ. That's not saying I'm the smartest person in the room. More EQ based, right? Like emotional intelligence of being able to say, I can read the room. I have sound judgment, critical thinking. So when you put these together, right? Like you may not have done the job for a day in your life, but most organizations, if you're hungry, if you're humble and you're smart, they're like, I can teach that. I can train you. I can mold you into the exact person who's going to really perform really well, listens attentively, right? All of these characteristics of, they're going to be impressed. It's like, I know, I think you could do this. And then one other point, when you're going through the interview process, right? This goes now, this goes later. Don't be afraid to follow up and be like, one, don't be afraid to say, hey, here's a thank you. That also goes a long way when we talk about like traditional P's and Q's. Not a lot of people are doing that. When we think of like, what are things that can make you stand out? Going back to some like the classic basics of like, it doesn't have to be a handwritten note. It could, that is really nice. It could just be an email like, hey, thanks so much for having me on site and taking the time to meet with me for this role. I'm really interested in it. I love the conversation we had and I, had great learnings. You can make it, you can cater it to whatever that is, but just sending the thank you itself is huge. Because all of these things, like you're going through, people are meeting with 50 people maybe for a final interview, for screening them, maybe 4 people, but they've looked at 400 resumes. So all of these little things that really make you stand out, um, think through them, right? I've told Andrew and Araceli, I was like, look, when people follow up on LinkedIn, even as, hey, I applied to this role. I saw, that you're the HR director for the organization. Would love to send my resume over. I think this would be a great fit for me. Um, just that alone, I've given phone calls to people to have conversations just because they followed up with that. It may not have made it further, or maybe it did, but it certainly got them a phone call because if someone's going to take the time to do that when it's so rare, I'm going to make sure I have at least a phone call conversation with them. And a lot of times, if they're not a good fit, I've left that conversation saying, like, hey, let me help you out. Make this tweak on your resume, make this tweak on your LinkedIn. Like every little step like helps you um, get feedback, or when they're interviewing, I'll tell them afterwards, like, hey, when we talked through this, this was your response. A better way to say that when you go through next interviews would be X, Y, and Z. So don't be afraid to follow up, shoot a note, an email, even ask for feedback. Hey, I know I didn't get that job, but I would love feedback. Questions, comments? Is this what y'all expected? I kind of ran through that one fast. Okay. Oh, you will. Yeah, tell me.
What would you recommend doing to have a professional LinkedIn profile?
Um, so professional LinkedIn profile, you mean like from a photo?
Like, what would make it stand out?
Oh, I see. Look, just have like, what you're focusing on. Just like look at your resume and take snippets of that and you can just plug that in. Like a quick summary of like, hey, graduating in May of 26, looking to secure a role in X, Y, and Z. Just having, maybe look at it as like a mini version of your resume. It doesn't have to have the full blown 5 bullets for everything that you've done, but certain key points there. Um, Having a photo too, right? Like it doesn't have to be this super done up task by any means. Any other questions? Yeah.
Has there been an instance where somebody's been very intentional about reaching out or doing all the things that you just said, but they did it this way?
Oh, people have been aggressive, like, hey, I didn't hear back. Well, yeah, Troy, I talked to you a day ago, right? Like I told you we were in the process. Like I think when you think of just have some level of EQ there of like, it could be, well, they said they'd follow up with me, in 2 weeks. And then just mark on your calendar, 2 weeks. It's gone by, follow up. I would say like just refrain from sending like 10 emails and being like super aggressive, right? Then it's off-putting. There is a fine line in it, right? You want to, but I promise if y'all are following up, like it's not, it's pretty rare that I have someone that's um being really aggressive in that space. But um, I mean, one other thing too, I get asked a lot would be the follow-up of, a lot of times recruiters will say, "Hey, tell me about the process that you're going through right now. Are you in final stages? Are you talking to other organizations?" I think a lot of people are really afraid to say that they're not in a certain stage, right? That they're not looking appealing in the market, that people aren't being sought after. And you could just leave it vague, saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm, talking with a few companies. But I'm still actively interviewing and actively applying." Um, and just, how long you could even ask, like, how long are y'all looking to take to finish up your process, just to make sure we're aligned? Because I always ask, like, hey, tell me a little bit about the process you're going through right now. Are you in final stages? Because then I know, like, okay, well, our timing might not line up. So I can provide some transparency to say, if you're still on the market, like, let's go through the process. Do you still want to go through the process? You might have an offer in hand, and I can't really compete with that timing. But it opens it up just don't feel like you need to inflate it by any means. Because a lot of people, I would tell you, myself included, if a recruiter had asked me today, hey, tell me where you are on the process, like I hide my cards. Like I'm not gonna say, well, I have an offer here, an offer there, and you know, like details. No one really expects that level of detail. It's just like, is our timing gonna line up? That's it. So you really don't have to overshoot it. Did you have a question? Okay, did I answer it? Um, a few resources. So when we go over, this is the link. This presentation is not like groundbreaking. You guys, it goes back to basics, but um, behavioral interviewing, Hungry, Humble, Smart. It's a model from Patrick Lencioni, and being the ideal team player, it goes more into details of that. If you're looking for additional reading material, I doubt any of y'all are, but it's a good one. It's one that I've read a few times in my career. Emotional intelligence, um, strength finders, like a lot of these are free now too. Like you don't have to actually get the book and the disc to take the assessment, but a lot of these are telling of like, hey, where do I excel? What are some of my opportunities? Um, just from like in a professional setting versus personal setting. And it's just findings for you, right? Like you don't have to share that with anyone. A lot of times it's just helpful for you to have something that's like, oh, I do show up that way, right? And what's the call out of how that can come across, right? Not to change it, but just to be aware. And then, oh, guys, ChatGPT, like, it's a wonderful thing. And like, put your stuff through it. Resume, like, feel free, take a screenshot of your LinkedIn. Hey, what else would like use it to help you? What else would you change about my profile? And it might even just give you some grammatical errors of like, oh great, I didn't recognize that, and I fine tune it just to make it a little bit more polished. Or I'm trying to quantify this one thing from, a presentation I did and it's 3 sentences long and I'm looking to make it just one sentence. Help consolidate, make it concise for me. God, if I had that. Yeah.
No. Like, have you answered questions like, what can you do to stay like in an internship?
Yeah.
To secure full-time position?
Yeah. Good question. So I don't know if everyone had heard, he said, what can I do to stand out in an internship and outside of, hungry, humble, smart. So we're talking about like, first securing the interview and going through the interview process. For an internship, once you're there, I told Andrew and Araceli, right? Like everyone's at your fingertips. No one is going to say, no, I don't have 30 minutes to meet with you. Reach out to everyone. Say, hey, I'd love to put 30 minutes on your calendar. I mean, within reason, guys. Like, don't like load up your day because you are there to also like learn and do the work itself. But maybe that's like, hey, I'm looking to have some conversations 3 times a week, twice a week. Hey, can I put 30 minutes or could we grab coffee or lunch? I'd love to just pick your brain, learn a little bit about their career path, ask them, you know, how did you decide? Transportation and logistics. What got you here? Um, what did you think you'd do and how did that pivot and what were like your learnings from it? What would you say is a great career path in this space? Like just as pick their brain. Everyone who is a little bit more tenured in their career is more than happy to like share their knowledge and wealth of like, hey, I had this learning or I wish I did this. I wish I attended all of these events at the Career Center. Um, but they'll tell you, I mean, so don't be afraid. That's what I would say. Like, one, in the job, ask all the questions. Like, hungry, humble, smart, how does that come across? Just, you're there to be a sponge. Like, I would tell Andrew and Araceli, like, no one is expecting you to be like, I'm going to change the trajectory of this company. But how are you taking in the information? How are you, if I see you over there, just on our phone and not even like taking notes as like someone's taking the time to train you, like there's P's and Q's that come along with that, right? Like you're not going to leave a great impression. Be present. You're there to be engaged. You're getting paid, but like you're there for the experience, right? Like at the end of the day. Um, so sit there, ask some questions, pick their brain. Why do you guys do that? Well, what's the hardest thing of like learning this? Like no question is a dumb question. Does that help?
Kind of building up what you
Yeah.
said for the smart, what are some like characteristics that you choose for as someone in HR? What are some key characteristics that like
For hungry, humble, smart. Well, so here's the thing. It's something like I'm just looking for in our interaction. There's not like a specific question I'm going to be asking to be like, tell me last time you showed humility, right? Like it's how you answer those questions to say like, I recognize I learned from a failure. Um, I had this great takeaway and I wish I would have done, hindsight being 2020, I thought I did it well, but I really could have done it better. And that was my learning from that. Um, I mean, having the conversation too. Don't dominate the conversation. It's just, some of those basics. I would say like there's not specific question there that I'm like, okay, let me, judge the hungry, humble, smart. Like it's going to come through in your conversation, how you present yourself, how you show up, how you are responding and answering those questions that they're asking. Um, it shows up in that space. Are you asking, is it a two-way conversation too? Like, are you asking questions, being inquisitive in that regard? Does that help?
Your presentation is very widely applicable.
Yeah.
So my question, moving a step further, is in a room full of entry-level supply chain management majors who are either focused on logistics or operations, with those skills specifically, what do you, as the filter between the organization and the candidate, outside of hungry, humble, and smart, what things do you see that set certain candidates apart from the broader pool?
I mean, you're not gonna like my answer. Like I'm going back to everything here.
It's really down to the basics.
Honestly, like I'm not lying to you when I say like show up well. Like if you're like yeah, like your attitude, your overall demeanor, you're not just like walking in and like lackadaisical, like you're there, you're excited to be there, show a little bit of energy, like no one's asking for fireworks, like, hey, excited to be here, you showed up a little early. Like it's those things, those stand out. Now, I would say that like that from a broad perspective, right? I would like ask them like, how did you get in this space? What has your career path been, right? Because I think that's always the biggest when you guys are looking, right? It's such a also broad industry too. of like, where am I gonna narrow down my experience? What does my career path look like? And at the end of the day, like, getting that first experience is wonderful and you'll have learnings from it. I mean, I told Araceli and Andrew, like in their internship, I was like, you might leave here being like, I hated working with a 3PL. And that's okay. Like that's like our internship is for learnings for you to feed into you. Like you learned a process, you kind of saw soup to nuts of how an organization operates and saw the small picture to the big picture, and that's our goal for you. And if you say like this is not where I want to end up, like that's okay too, because like you guys like that's the whole point of, you know, better navigating your career path. But it really like basics. Follow up, be just, do a little bit of homework, be prepared for the conversation. Because if you followed up and we had a call and that screening call, it was like pulling teeth to get information out and it wasn't really engaging. Like it's probably going to stop there, right? It's probably not going to go any further because, you know, you didn't really do homework, you didn't really come prepared, whether that's Teams, in person, all of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I did. So you can find anything you want on the internet, pretty much, and ChatGPT or
Yeah.
Genesis or Claude or going on and on. So because of that, how much should I be conscious or cautious of what I put on the internet? Because a company's going to look me up.
So, good question. I feel like it's wildly different. Like, guys, I am young, but like Facebook was just a thing. Like it wasn't all of this stuff. And when I graduated college, like the whole thing was like clean up your Facebook because you're gonna go interview. Like don't have red Solo cups. Like it's changed. Like there's not like don't be just people live their lives out loud. So it is a little different from like a traditional stance of like, but I would still be like, if you have a public profile and all that's all great. But I would still be cognizant of like what you're putting on the internet. I think that's just for like life. But you're also showing up there too, right? So if we had an interview and hey, we really liked you, and like, what if I looked you up on Instagram and saw like F-bombs for the Super Bowl and the Patriots and like, like maybe it was like a trend. I don't know. Sometimes we don't know. Like but it's a thing of like, you have to also like put that in reverse. Like you go ahead, you live your life, but also, oh gosh, like, is that going to take someone back? I would just like second guess. I would just, you know, put it through the lens of like, if a future employer were to see this, is it gonna be like that's not the person I saw here when we were interviewing. And then that seems wildly aggressive on social media. It's gonna give people a pause. So it's not that it doesn't matter, it matters. Um, I would say that the general perception of social media is wildly different from, 15 years ago. Of like then it was like I wouldn't even have like, a glass of wine and I was over 21, right? Like in a picture. Like things have just, transitioned some. But I would say that there's still an element of how's that gonna look? Right? We get pretty free with living our lives out loud. And it does, you're searchable. You guys know this, like you know it better than me. You can find yourselves better than I can find you. But it's still out there. That help?
I know the answers.
Well, I was like, what are you saying?
We're not, by HR training and hiring, we're told we're not allowed to look. So if somebody applies for a job, I'm not allowed to look at their social media.
That I personally like that rule. I don't want to know personal, like I don't want to make a hiring decision. But at the end of the day, if it's not something that's like, it's not something illegal, but like you're living your life and it's not really a representation of like how we live our values of our organization. If I were to put you in front of a customer, that's not what I would want them seeing. Like that's real.
Typically look, but I don't dig.
Yeah.
So if I put your name in and the first thing that comes, so I'll give you an example of something. There was another Brian Salzer in the world, and he's some distant cousin or something like that, but, if you put his name in, you'll find out his son played at Iowa State football and was released from Iowa State for a gambling scandal of internal, betting and fixing of games. And this guy was a football coach. And so a football coach and his son, and so for a while there, he had trouble getting a job. So if I was hiring him as a football coach.
Yeah.
And I put his name in, and that's the first story that comes up, is that his son was caught in a gambling scandal, and there's some other things about him, how he jumped jobs and people didn't like it, and some bad press. And the first thing that comes up is a bunch of bad press, and I don't even have to go past the first two links.
All you got to do is Google it. Like,
I might be thinking a little bit.
I mean, so from an HR profession, like I'm very aligned with like not doing digging. But if I would be lying to you guys if I said people don't look. I mean, they look. It's all out there and it's so easily accessible. Like, why wouldn't they look? Right? And I'm going to make sure from, put my HR hat on, like, are we making a decision that's discriminatory or are we making it, based off of like their viewpoint or where they live or anything? So that certainly should never be the case. But again, if you're like just throwing F-bombs around and just being, pretty lackadaisical in that sense, like that's easily like not what we would want to be customer facing or, hey, I don't know that we'll be able to put them in front of a customer, right? Like that's real.
Cause I dealt with this at another university I was at. It's easier to teach people the discipline than it is to teach people to be a human being. So if you show up well as a human being and maybe you don't know all the discipline too well, I can teach that. But it's hard for me to teach you the things that mom and dad didn't teach you as a kid.
Yeah, for sure. Like be a good any organization, right? Like any good organization is going to be like, do they fit our culture? Like any interview, which is a fair point that we probably should cover. And any interview you're going in, like they're going to look at you from, can you get there? Do you have the skills and ability? Do you have the technical skills if it's a different job and you have some experience underneath you? Culture and values. Are you a culture fit? I mean, are you a good person, right? Like, I mean, we want to hire people that are going to tell us when something wrong or even they did it, even if they're at fault for it. They're going to try to hide it up or lie about it. Like you're an honest person. You're kind. You're not going to curse one of our drivers and like there's, just like there's a form there, right? That you hold yourself well and you seem like you have good empathy and you are an honest person, then like culture and values, like that's also a criteria of what any organization is gonna be looking for too. And if they're not, you probably don't want to work there. There's plenty of places, right? So don't forget, like you guys are interviewing for them just as much as they're interviewing for you. And it's okay to say, I don't think that's the place for me. That's a really hard one, like really hard. I think most people are like, no, like, but I want a job. Sometimes you just got to suck it up. You do. Like we have to pay bills. We have stuff to do. We have to get experience somehow. But if that's compromising like morals and, feeling like the company's kind of doing some shady stuff, like, or just not aligned of like how they interact with each other, and there's a lack of respect in the workplace, and there's just, like that's not the experience that you're gonna want. Other questions? I will say like no one slept through this one, so I appreciate that. Told him afterwards, I was like, can you believe there was like two people asleep? I know I'm not that exciting, but it's not that long. Um, so you guys have it. Feel free, like connect on LinkedIn, learn a little bit more about NT logistics.